Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. This is being recorded Tuesday night. And yes, I am a hot mess. It's been a very long day. We'll tell the patrons about it. The Twitch streamers, the Twitch stream audience heard. Is there a particular term for a Twitch stream audience? I don't know. But they heard some of it. Anyway, that's not what I'm talking about today. Something hit the news today when I'm recording it, and it tied into some stuff that has been bouncing around in the gaming community about the idea of merit and what effective qualifications are, what sort of qualifications people should be looking for. And so this story really touched a nerve with me on a lot of fronts. I hate the way it's being covered from a celebrity angle, but this story about the college admissions fraud. It's the largest college admissions fraud case the FBI has ever investigated. And of course, the media attention has focused on the fact that Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin were two of the parents that paid off corrupt university officials to either fudge their kids' SAT scores or make them appear to be students when they were not in fact students. Not students. Sports tuitions, sports scholarships, like lesser known things like rowing or tennis or things like that, lacrosse. They were faking sports photos and all that stuff. The whole thing's just like irritating and frustrating. And it comes down to this idea of merit. And these were Ivy League schools. This was like Stanford and Yale and UCLA. UCLA's, I'm not sure if it's Ivy League, but those first two were. These are top schools. And if people have been getting in by bribery for God knows how long, what do degrees from those schools actually mean? Like when they get there, do they actually graduate? What's going on? Now, apparently some of the people who took the bribes with the collegiate sports programs actually put the money into their programs because the programs were so cash strapped that they needed it. But that still doesn't make it right. And the people who are actually helping people like fake SAT scores, this is the sort of thing that when we talk about merit and merit-driven hiring, merit-driven anything, how do we define merit? And this whole scandal, this whole criminal, this is a crime, speaks like just gets to the core of the merit problem when we talk about these things. Objectively, like when you just look at it in theory, it is really easy to say that it shouldn't be about, identifiers. It should be about merit, and the person who is best qualified for the job should get the job. But this subject gets really sticky. It gets really thorny when we try to define merit for particular particular jobs. The case I tend to use is some women prefer to have a female doctor, a female gynecologist especially. But some women just want a female doctor for any medical thing. I'm not one of those people that particularly cares. My current doctor happens to be female, but I don't require a female doctor. I think doctors are professionals and it shouldn't matter if they're male or female. But some people want a female doctor. So merit in that case would be female, or men sometimes are more comfortable talking to a male counselor. Some people are more comfortable talking to a female counselor. This is merit in those situations. So an availability of male and female counselors or doctors or people who are knowledgeable about trans community issues, trans health, things like that, transgender health. Those are meritorious in certain situations, but that's not what people tend to mean when they talk about merit. It tends to just be skill, like qualifications, like I got good grades, I have this skill, not I am able to connect with a particular portion of the population that may otherwise not seek mental or physical health professional help. And this gets even stickier when we get into the fact that a lot of the best jobs only hire from the so-called best schools. Part of the huge pipeline problem in Silicon Valley is that they only hire from certain schools. Those schools tend to have overwhelmingly white student bodies, and so people of various races are cut off from the entire ecosystem of hiring. They won't even look at somebody from a historically black college because they want merit-based hiring. These are the best schools. Well, now we have to question at least the schools that were involved in this scheme, and do we assume that it's just these schools, or are these just the ones that got caught? How much is a top-tier education worth? Because don't forget that a lot of these top-tier schools, they want rich alumni, and so they're more likely to take in legacy kids, all this stuff. And this is why I personally think the entire way people are educated for skilled trades is faulty. I absolutely believe in creating well-rounded students. I think that liberal arts courses within other degrees have merit. But what do these degrees actually mean? It doesn't actually mean that someone is smarter, someone is more skilled. It means that they had the right connections to get into the right schools, to meet the right people. And is that truly merit-based hiring? Or are we just perpetuating it's not what you know, it's who you know? Is the entire hiring system for these elite positions so flawed that is actually why, places like Facebook and Google are disasters right now? I mean, okay, they're hiring from MIT and schools like that, not Stanford and Yale necessarily, but I mean, the legal profession, lots of other professions. I mean, Harvard, prestigious, Stanford, Yale, these are all very prestigious schools. If people are getting in based on their parents just being rich and they didn't even meet the basic academic qualifications because somebody boosted their SAT scores, what does that say for the quality of education they're receiving from these institutions? And, this is not a nothing question, because this means we have to question our entire concept of what merit means. And I personally believe that the most meritorious thing you can possibly have is you can show on-the-job experience. But some people say that's a bias that I have because I'm older, believe it or not. Yeah, they actually say, oh, you're older, so you have experience. So that university is all about getting your foot in the door. The problem is more and more people who have tons of work experience, HR departments are like, but we need to check the box of a university degree. And I know a lot of very, very skilled people who, were doing serious like IT security stuff in the 80s, who they don't have that piece of paper. So they have trouble getting work nowadays, even though they taught some of these courses. They created the things that got taught in schools. And it's very frustrating because you guys know me. I like data. I like, what do we know? What are the known knowns? What are the known unknowns? What are the unknown unknowns? And if what a university degree means from specific schools is now a known unknown, that puts everybody in that school under a cloud. Everybody from Yale now is, well, did you really earn the degree? Or did you really earn your spot there? And there is a real feeling of unfairness, isn't there? The idea that someone cheated their way in, which means somebody, because there's only so many spots, right? Somebody who was deserving, who did earn it, who did do the work, who did have a legitimate SAT score, they didn't get that spot because somebody else cheated. So somebody else's life got derailed who actually deserved that spot. And you have to question the whole system, don't you? And that's why it baffles me when these tech companies like Facebook, that, Mark Zuckerberg notoriously dropped out of college to start the company, and, Jeff Bezos quit his job at I think a publishing firm to start Amazon, and they step on their employees' necks. Like, they wouldn't hire themselves if they walked in the door. Now, one would argue that, well, that's why they're entrepreneurs. They're the ones that do the hiring, not get hired. And that's valid. I had to learn that I'm one of those people myself. Gee, I wish somebody had told me that 10 years earlier, but neither here nor there. But that's a bit of bullshit too, isn't it? If somebody is good enough to run a company, they should be good enough to run a department in a company. Like, these companies are suffering from their narrow-minded hiring practices. And I'm actually finding, like, game design is getting that way too. Like, unless you have this huge indie hit, and even then, you got to go to the right school and you have to have this portfolio, and because the recruiters go to certain schools, or else it takes forever to get in through a recommendation from someone who already works in the company. None of these are merit-based hiring processes. These are hiring processes designed to preserve a corporate culture. And not only are some guys who don't have the right friends missing out on an opportunity they deserve because of that, but also, women and people of, people who aren't some form of Asian or white, who don't have those connections, they are also missing out. And why do I say that? Well, we do know, like, traditionally, most Americans are more likely to hang out with people of their own racial group. It's just, I'm not making that up. That's the data. Especially with the pipeline in post-secondary institutions. So we have a serious structural problem on our hands. And that structural problem has been propped up for at least a decade, probably longer, on the idea of, well, we just want the best people. Well, we're not getting applications. Well, they have to be qualified. We have very high standards. And this university acceptance cheating scandal just kind of puts the lie to that. Because if rich people have been buying spots for their kids in schools, that brings down the idea that an Ivy League degree, a degree from a top school is earned. Because I'm not convinced that it's only these schools. I am prepared for this to just be the tip of an iceberg, because this case apparently came about because of information found in another case. So we'll see. Maybe it is limited. Maybe this is fairly limited in scope. Maybe it's not. But it does really make you think, doesn't it? I'm not claiming I have an answer to this problem. I'm not one of those people who are like, Green New Deal. What is it? It's the Green New Deal. Yeah, but what are the nuts and bolts of the policies? Well, that's up to other people to figure out. I'm about big ideas. I'm not that kind of person. I don't know how to fix this issue other than hiring from more diverse sources and rethinking the entire idea of merit, rethinking whether a degree from Yale is really better than a degree from, say, Brown or Smith College or something like that. Is it really better, or is it just more elitist? I don't know. Like, somebody's actually going to have to go in there and actually test to see if a Yale or Stanford grad is more qualified than some other university that isn't quite as prestigious. That's the only way we're going to know for sure. Just aptitude test. Or companies are going to have to start like their own version of an SAT, some sort of entrance exam that everybody writes, regardless of your educational background, and candidates are selected based on that. Maybe that's the way to do it. I don't know. But maybe some companies already do that. I have no idea. I have created every job in one way or another that I've had. So let me know if anybody knows if these things are used, and how do you guys think we solve this idea of merit? And how do we reconcile? How do we square so that every version of merit and everybody is treated fairly? What does fairness even mean? This is really esoteric philosophy, right? But how do we serve the people who want people who look like them in certain roles, and also make sure that I finally figured out what I want to say. Make sure everybody who is qualified enough to do a job has a job that they can use their skills so they're not bored. So we don't have this skills mismatch that we have right now, that perfectly qualified people can't find work. I know a lot of absolutely brilliant computer programmers looking for work right now still. But which pisses me off, because they did the right thing when back in the 90s everybody was saying, go into computers, it's a guaranteed job. There's no such thing. But you know, how do we put all these disparate pieces to all these bits of data? What is the strategy that incorporates everything we know about this issue? I'm really, really interested in your comments on this, because this is one of these things where I can diagnose the problem, but I have no idea what the treatment is. So that's about this. Help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. This video probably won't do as well as some of the others I've been doing lately, because it's kind of esoteric. So if you like this sort of content, I'd appreciate, $1 a month, $5 a month on Patreon. That's merit-based donating. No, it's not. I'm just making a joke. Thanks for watching.